Is that your one? Is that your one? Oh my gosh.
Yes.
My sister has uncles too. Twins or something. Hi.
Tony Gomez!
Hello, welcome everyone. Good evening. For those of you that don't know, my name is Tony Gomez and I am a representative here. Before we begin, we want to thank you all for coming tonight. There are several things you could be doing right now, so we appreciate you for taking the time. Whether you are a friend to support someone, a client coming to review the ideas we have shared, or looking to help us with the growth of our company. Tonight, you're going to hear from 3 speakers. Our first speaker, her name is Robin Sears. She's going to introduce a problem that is happening out there right now, and other problems that we see people facing every day. Our second speaker, his name is Wade Skolsky. He's going to talk to you about the solution that we put together, and not only do we feel it is needed, but vital right now. After, Brett Sears is going to bring the problem and solution together and talk to you about the opportunities in front of us. Once again, thank you all for taking the time to be here. We will be around after to answer any questions. So please, help me welcome Robin Sears.
Hello, hello, hello. How's everybody? Good. I'm just coming too serious. And I'm just about to make it more serious. This is my job. And then we get so thank you again for coming tonight. We know there are lots of places that you can be tonight. Apparently there's lots of back to school nights happening, and we're really appreciative that you're taking this time to be with us. So since you're stuck here anyway, go ahead and put all of those things that are in your mind that you're thinking about, everything going on with your day and with your families, and put that aside so that you can focus for a couple of minutes, or like 3 hours, just kidding, with us to hear a little bit about what's going on here. You were invited here tonight because there are a group of us in the room who are really dedicated to solving what we think is one of the biggest problems facing our communities and our nation today. And it's really about understanding that the only way that we're going to make a difference in the world in this particular issue is if people know about it, know about the solution, and know that there are a group of us who are really dedicated to it. And so we thank you for being here tonight. We thank you for being here to support us and to hear our story. So what is this problem? You know, we took a look at the world, and the world can be cut up, and our nation can be cut up in all different ways. But one of those ways is looking at money, right? We've got folks in this country who are wealthy. Who's interested in being part of the wealthy people? Yeah, we're all pretty interested in being part of them. Why are we interested in being part of the wealthy people? Well, we're interested in being part of wealthy people because they have access to certain things. They have access to education. In fact, typically, wealthy folks have a history, an institutionalized history of folks going to college. Grandpa went to college and Dad went to college, and therefore the next generation is going to go to college, right? They have opportunities to own. You will not find a wealthy person in this country who doesn't own something. They may own a trust fund, granted, but they own something, because we know that the only way to experience true financial freedom is through ownership. And I was talking to someone the other day, and they said, well, what do you mean by financial freedom? And when we talk about financial freedom, we talk about time and money. Having enough money and having enough time to be able to do what you want, when you want, with who you want to do it. That sounds kind of fun, right? How many of us know a lot of people who have a lot of money but no time, right? That was me working a million hours a week. Still working on a lot of money, but working a million hours a week, no time. And a lot of people who have a whole lot of time on their hands, but absolutely no money, right? Lots of people out there like that. But what we're really talking about are people who don't even think about what they're going to do, right? Whether they have that time or whether they have the money. It's simply a matter of what do we want to do. And that's an exciting place to be. Financial freedom, financial guidance, right? There are hundreds of thousands of people who wake up every day and say, how can I take care of the folks that have money? And it makes sense that they wake up every day to do that because they can be paid, right? If someone has money, then they can pay for services. And so there's a whole bunch of people who are saying, how can we serve people at the top and make sure that they're taken care of? And then there's people at the bottom that we call the not so wealthy. And the good thing is that in this country, we've actually dedicated ourselves to taking care of the folks who are the least fortunate in our society. And we do that by providing free preschool and college grants and hundreds of thousands of nonprofits. So just like there are hundreds of thousands of people waking up every day saying, how can I service people at the top? There are hundreds of thousands of people waking up every day saying, how can I have impact at the bottom? How can I help people who don't have anything? And that's really special. So we have institutionalized service and support. And then there's this big space in the middle. And this is what I call everybody else. We use the word Main Street families in this house, in this office. And it's really about the idea of anybody living paycheck to paycheck. And so today that includes a single mom or dad, making $50,000 as a teacher, or a dual income family living in Stevenson Ranch making $250,000, right? They both have a mortgage. They both have a car payment. One might be a Honda, one might be a Lexus, but as my husband Brett says, one's just a better shade of broke. And they're all facing the same struggles. They want their kids to go to preschool, but they don't qualify for free preschool. And preschool's expensive. As many of you know, I'm looking at 2, though I keep saying there's got to be a twin discount out there. They want their kids to go to college. We often say there are plenty of kids I've talked to who said, I don't want to go to college, but I haven't met a parent who doesn't want to give their child an opportunity to go to college. And what's happening here is there are kids who are working so hard and they're getting into great schools, but they actually aren't qualifying for the grants that are being offered down here, and they don't have enough money to pay for the colleges that they're getting into, which is really a crime in this country. They'd love to own. There are so many friends of mine who say, oh my God, I could totally do my boss's job. In fact, I would do it better than he would. But I don't have the capital. I don't have $500,000 to go start my own company. And then financial advice. At the end of the day, we all need a financial plan. We all need a roadmap for where we want to get to. Because if you don't have an end destination, how are you ever going to make it there? And yet the financial advisors aren't talking to us. You have to have $250,000 minimum for someone to talk to you. And we don't actually blame the financial advisors for not talking to us because they work on commission. And if you were going to get a commission off investing $250,000, or you were going to get a commission off of investing $25,000, who would you want to talk to? Right? The person with $250,000. No one blames those folks. But what it does is it leaves us with no one talking to us. I come up here week after week and we tell this story. And I say, well, they and they and they and they. But how many of you sitting here thought, well, wait, I want my kids to go to preschool. Or I want my kids to go to college. Or I'd love to own my own business. Or yeah, I need to make sure that we're financially taken care of. This feels like it's they out there. But the truth is, it's us in here. It impacts us every day. It impacts our friends and our family and our community every day. And it's not changing. Why isn't it changing? Who do we turn to in these times of trouble? We turn to the banks, the lenders, the life insurance companies, and corporate America, because that's who we've been taught to turn to. So how many of us think the banks are here to get us rich? No one, no? Really? What does the bank do with your money if you put it in there to save it? The bank invests your money. The bank is making money off your money. So why would they ever want you to not put your money in the bank? The lender's here to get us out of debt. Heck no, right? Insurance companies, corporate America, all of these folks have to be beholden to their owners. And so it's really about how they make money at the end of the day, even though we've been told that these are the folks that we're supposed to turn to. And they haven't proven trustworthy at all. And one of the issues we talk about in here is no one's even mad about it. This is a generational issue, right? When I talked about folks at the top, one goes to college and the next goes to college and the next goes to college, how many of us treat our money the way our parents treated their money? That's our default. And so if we're going to keep doing the same things, it's going to impact our children and our children's children, and it becomes a systemic problem. And no one is interested in helping us. And the reason no one is interested in helping us is because we buy the goods and services from the wealthy, and we pay the taxes to support the not so wealthy. So nobody's interested in making this different, which means we have to be interested in making it different. We have to be disruptive. Now, how many of you would agree that's a pretty big problem, right or wrong? You ready for this? That's not even the problem. God, can you imagine? You're like, are you serious? I've sat here for 5 minutes and that's not even the problem? It's not the problem. The reason that it's not the problem is because that's really theoretical. The problem is we can sit here on a Wednesday night in Valencia and say, yeah, that's terrible. That makes sense. But the problem is we're not doing anything about it. That's the problem. And we're not doing anything about it because the problem only becomes real when it becomes personal, when it hits us. We often hear people talk about preventative medicine. Kaiser has all kinds of like commercials on the radio now. Kristen, you'd be great at that, right? And how many times, though, do we start our diet before we get the bad cholesterol test back? Not very often, right? I tell Brett that I perpetually live on Sunday because Monday I'm going to start a diet every day. We don't think in a preventative way because we think it's never going to happen to us. And yet we're talking about things that are inevitable. It's inevitable that if you have children, they're going to grow up and go to school. It's inevitable that you are going to grow old and stop working at some point, someday. It's inevitable that we need to eat and put food on the table. These are inevitabilities that we don't plan for until they actually happen. That's the problem. And a group of us in this room said no more. We said, we're not going to wait for it to happen. We're going to do something now. We're going to do something before we get the call from our brother that he lost his job and hasn't saved enough money. We're going to do something before we get the call from our mom crying because she doesn't want to go to work and she's 65 and she didn't save enough to stop. We're going to do something before we get a call from our best friend that her husband suddenly died and left 2 children. And they were underinsured. We decided in this room that we weren't going to wait, that we were going to do something now. And that's why we've invited you tonight. Because the problem is real. And the problem is personal. If it hasn't hit you yet, it's going to. It's just a matter of when. So can we all agree there's a pretty big problem for us to solve? And what matters is that we have a viable solution, that we can take theory and put it into practice to make a difference in our lives, in our families' lives, in our communities' lives, and eventually across this great nation. And so with that, I'm inviting up the great Wade Skulski to talk to you about the first part of a truly viable solution. Thank you.
I think it's funny that when we're sitting around and Brett and Robin and I were talking and thinking about the presentation, and kind of people started to find out what they were going to do, Robin was all fired up and passionate about it. It's like, this is going to be awesome. We're going to get to educate people. And then everyone was like, okay, Robin, or Brett's like, Robin, you get to bum everybody out. That's your job. She's like, what? I wasn't there for that meeting, but I'm sure that's what happened. She's like, I got to bum everybody out. So Robin does a great job every week of identifying the problem and having everybody be like, oh, this problem. And but I get to bring everybody up and say, what is the solution to this problem? Okay, because there is a solution. It really would not be a very fun interaction if we say, here's a big problem and it can't be solved. Okay, but we're not going to do that because, like, look, we can all agree that the wealthy have access to financial security because they have access to the tools and the resources. Okay, but we don't have access to the tools and the resources for all the reasons that Robin pointed out. But one thing that we can do is we can identify, well, how do the wealthy think about money? Right? Can we model wealthy behavior? Because that's all you do. If you want to lose weight, you just find someone that has lost weight and you model what they did. If you want to run a business, you basically find someone who runs the same type of business that you want to do and you model what they do. So we can use that same technique with the wealthy. Well, we identified 4 principles that are consistent with all millionaires, basically. And the first principle is they lock in advances for a family. What does this mean? It means that they don't spend their whole lives working to grow their wealth, and then if something happens to them, then they lose all the wealth for their children, so their children have to do it all over again. And they do this through a couple different ways. They do it through trust funds. They do it through basically the knowledge that they have that they pass on from generation to generation. They make sure that their children are going to do as well or better than they did down the line so that the family keeps advancing and keeps moving forward. They develop the habits. The wealthy understand is that, look, you can work as hard as you want, and working really, really hard will not get you rich. They understand that. You have to develop the habits that over time, the right habits over time will generate wealth for you in the future. Just like this problem sneaks up on people for retirement, the solution is something that is a long-term solution. Getting wealthy is not something that's going to happen in the next 24 hours. We need to come up with a 1-year plan, a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, a 20-year plan, whatever that is, to be able to develop those habits over a long period of time so that wealth is inevitable for us, okay? The third thing they do is they leverage experts. Listen, everyone tries to do everything themselves, okay? For the longest time, I tried to do my own taxes. Why? I have no idea. I became a lawyer because I'm terrible at math, right? If you're good at math and science, go be a doctor. I'm not good at those things, so I went to go be a lawyer. There's no math, or at least I was told no math would be involved, right? But for some reason, for the longest time, I would get TurboTax, or I would try to do my own taxes, and it was a complete epic disaster, right? The wealthy don't do that. What they do is they know what they're not good at, and they get themselves an accountant, or they get themselves a real estate expert, or they get themselves whatever they need to get to make sure that it's done right, is done right the first time, and they don't have to learn how to do it. They just have to learn how to pick the right people. The wealthy become excellent at picking the right people. And the fourth thing they do is they cultivate strategic partnerships. I always use the example of Oprah, who's worth $1 billion. Oprah has said that it only took something like 6 relationships for her success. All right, that really she can narrow it down to less than 10 people for all of her wealth and all of her opportunities and all of her success. That was a direct result of relationships of less than 10 people of relationships. We have this in our mind that the wealthy people just have these endless Rolodexes of people and that they have access to all of these scenarios and all of these systems. And it simply doesn't have to be that way for us or for them. It's a very small number of people. They learn to cultivate strategic partnerships, though, so that they can basically get a synergistic, it's a really silly big word that I don't know why I suddenly decided to use it, but they can get momentum between everybody, right? So they get momentum by using the experts, and they get momentum by cultivating these strategic partnerships. That's it. These 4 principles done every day over a long period of time really, really increase your chances of getting wealthy to almost an inevitability if done correctly. And that's why the wealthy do it, and you know how I know it? Is because there's generational wealth in this country. Is that we know of families where the father's rich, and the kids are rich, and the grandkids are rich, and they pass the wealth through generations just by doing this. So we know this works because we've seen it work because there's generational wealth in the country. Now, let's talk a little bit about the power of partnership. We don't have, listen, no one in here has $5 million. If you do, please talk to me after the meeting. I'd like to chat with you. Okay? I have a really interesting investment opportunity for you, right? But most of us, I think, in here don't have $5 million. If we did, we would have access to all those things we talked about, the financial tools, the financial opportunities that we could take the $5 million and we could invest it. right? So we don't have any of those things. So how do we start to leverage some of these principles for the Main Street families? Well, the first thing we do is one of the strategic partnerships that we work with is Primerica. Why? Because even though we don't have $5 million, Primerica has $3 billion in cash. And they've been around since 1977. So if we want to start doing things with money, we want to make sure that we have access to a partnership of somebody that has a bunch of cash and has been doing it for a long time, so that we can know that they're fair, legal, and ethical, basically. You don't have to worry about it. So Primerica fits that bill for us. So just like no one from Dean Witter will talk to you unless you have $250,000 liquid. They don't even get paid on it. My brother who's right there, it's right him. My brother's brother-in-law. It sounds like a country western song. My brother's brother-in-law. My brother's brother-in-law, for a time, was thinking about to go work for Dean Witter. And they told him, or something like that, or Merrill Lynch or something like that. And they told him that we will not pay you on accounts less than $250,000, right? So he could get all trained as a financial advisor, and he couldn't talk to me. Like if I said, hey, buddy, I got a question, he could talk to me, but he wouldn't get paid on that time, right? Primerica does not do that. Primerica basically is targeted Main Street families. We don't care how much money you have. In fact, a lot of our clients have no money, because we want to teach you these 4 principles, because we have faith in you and faith in our clients that 10, 15, 20 years from now, you're going to have a lot of money using these principles, and then we're going to be able to roll over a lot of stuff for you then too, right? So that's the power of partnership with Primerica. They have a track record of helping Main Street families. Now look, so if we're going to put up a plan for us to emulate the wealthy, how do we do that? Because I just told you, we don't have the same resources and access that they do, right? So how are we going to do it? Well, again, this time we're all in trouble, never going to happen. No. The first thing we do is the lock-in advances for our family. We may not be able to do trust funds for our kids, but what we can do is we can do level term insurance, basically. It's an inexpensive way to rent a giant bag of money so that if you're struck by lightning, bored by javelina, hit by a bus, right, your kids will not have to work to do what you did. They start from where you started, okay? The second thing that we do, basically, is develop habits. We teach people about mutual funds, dollar cost averaging, saving a little bit over a month. You can open up a mutual retirement account with us for $50 a month, all right? If at the time that you were 18 years old, if you put $100 a month away, by the time you're 65, you're gonna be a millionaire, much more than a millionaire, right? That I can make every 18-year-old in the United States a millionaire, a cash millionaire, right? Everyone's 18 and nobody listens to me, right? But why is that important? Well, it's the habit of, we all know that we've all wasted $100, if you call buying Dodger tickets a waste, whatever. We wasted $100, right, on something every single month, right? Since the time we've been 18, we have, okay? But we just didn't have the knowledge and someone to teach to us, to be like, look, just put a little bit of money away for a long period of time, then you're going to be able to retire, right? So we help people start that habit out with mutual funds. I don't care if you're getting ready to retire in 5 years. I don't care if you're retired. I don't care if you're going to retire in 40 years, right? We need to start developing the habits now, because once you learn to develop a habit on purpose, then we can that's a skill that we can do that with everything else, all right? So then once we have enough money to develop the habits in mutual funds, we start to leverage experts. Well, how do we do that? We have access to something that's called a managed account. Most of the time, as Robin talked about, you have to have $250,000 to get access to a managed account. Wealth advisors that look at your money every day. It's like a boat on the ocean. Market goes up and down. And when a big storm is coming in, managed accounts look at it, they pick up your boat and put it in a different ocean, all right? That's expensive. You pay for that service, okay? But with Primerica, you can open up a managed account for $25,000. So you see how this just starts to work in lockstep. We protect you. Then we make sure we start the habits. And once the habits have taken place and we have enough money, we put that money into a managed account. And then when we start talking about is great, let's start cultivating strategic partnerships, okay? I've already talked about one of our partners, and that's Primerica. But Primerica is a corporation that's 2,000 miles away in Duluth, Georgia. There's 2,000 people in Duluth, Georgia that they work every single day to create the products for Main Street families. That's awesome. But I've never really met anyone from the home office in person. They're my partner, but I've never met anyone in person. Okay, so there's a second part of this though, and that's our advocates. And Brett's going to talk a lot more about this as well. But our advocates are a group of people that have decided to work together for a common purpose. It doesn't matter if you work with us. It matters that if you understand what we do and you think it's important, that you can help us with that, or we can help you with what you're trying to do. And just like Oprah has less than 10 people in her life that created everything in terms of her wealth, for us, we're all pointing in the same direction, and we're trying to create a team of people, a group of people that are all working together to help people with these issues here, okay? Because we can all accomplish more together than we can apart. And everyone is super serious right now. They take off my shirt or something, everybody's like, they've got super, super tight. And I think one reason why we got super tight is because all this can seem overwhelming. Doesn't it seem kind of overwhelming? Like, my God, when he's talking about Oprah and he's talking about these 4 principles and you got to get $25,000. And yes, this may seem overwhelming, but what people don't understand is it's so simple if we let it be simple. Everyone wants wealth to be complicated. Everyone wants it to be like the American dream where somebody pulls themselves up by the bootstraps and they did it themselves, right? But that's not how it is. Everyone that's wealthy has a team of people that help them get wealthy. It doesn't have to be the most talented people. Did you know that, in fact, if you take all the entertainers, all of the athletes, all of the creative people in the United States, and you combine them, they account for less than 1% of the millionaires. There's this illusion and there's this fantasy that we have to be super talented or super smart to become wealthy, and it's just not true. It doesn't have to be complicated. We can do it in a simple way. You just have to have grit, passion, and you have to work on your skills with money. That's it. And these things here can be taught, and that's what we're trying to do as a team here. I'm so excited. Brett and I are going to a law firm tomorrow, and we're going to start the process probably of beginning a 401k for that business. And what that means is that all the employees there, from the person that owns the business all the way down to the newest intern, is going to get taught these principles. And every employee that's ever going to work at that law firm from now until as long as that law firm is open for the next 25 years, every single person that's going to come through there is going to learn this. Just in that one business, generational change can happen. We can get excited about this because this is a 2 to 3 generation game plan. If we take just that one law firm for the next 20 years, and let's say 100 people go through that, and we teach them this, and they teach it to their kids, and their kids teach it to their kids, we can have 150 millionaires that we're responsible for from this team, from one business, because we're creating these services and we're giving access and education to the Main Street families. And that's an impact that I can get excited about. You know, Robin identified this problem, and we've identified a solution for it. And now all we got to do is we got to start teaching it to people. And I get excited about that because, and I'm going to close before I introduce with Brett, is that my father and mother taught me nothing about money, except for by their example, okay? And so some of them things were good, and some of them were bad. But it wasn't until I was in this business and I started to learn these principles that I actually started to feel like I had a future and that I knew what I was doing. And then I could rest at night because I'm like, okay, I know how we're going to retire. I know that if we have a family, I'm going to know how to put our kids to college. And I have the ability and licenses to do all of those things. And we get to do that for every single person that hears this message. Just like this firm tomorrow, every single person that works at that firm for the next 20 years, their whole life can change. And that's why I get so passionate about what we're talking about. Now, I'm going to bring Brett Sears up, and Brett Sears is going to talk about maybe if we want to do something a little bit faster, but I think it's incredible that we all get to at least talk about it and have this experience tonight. So thank you so much for coming, the awesome Brett Sears.
You all excited? All right, y'all excited? Are we supposed to be guests? We are. No, I'm really. So it's funny. I sit in the back of the room and Wade is coming fired up. So I'm in a fun place today because tonight's going to be a little bit different, a little bit the same, right? As we're talking, those of you here for the first time, right? There's a very specific reason that you're here. Is that we need to get this story out. For those of you that have been here before, there's a reason that you're back. We need to lock this in your heart and understand that there's a real problem in what's going on. What's funny is right before the meeting, Wade and I were talking with his brother and his wife, and they're going to go through it. He pulled a very, very obscure movie reference. And Wade and I have a lot of fun. Both of us grew in the Midwest, and when there's 150 inches of snow outside, it's freezing. You can't do anything except watch movies, right? So I grew up in Iowa. They grew up in North Dakota, and so we get good at movies. But he pulled one, and I was like, "Oh, I didn't know that." And instantly in my head, something happened, and I started thinking about a flute binder. Because I too could pull obscure references for movies. And the reason why I started thinking about that is, see, Wade talked about a 2 to 3 generation game plan, which is if we save and invest and we learn this stuff, and then we do it and we teach it to our children, and they teach it to their children, they can fundamentally change a family tree forever. Now, I want to think about when you were 8 and 9 years old. I want to think about when your parents sat you down, pulled out a piece of paper, went over the Rule 72, talking about compound interest, talking about how to plan for debt, how to pay off the debt the right way, how to make sure when you were 8, 9 years old, and your family sat down and went over the entire financial game plan, and then every 6 months they pulled out their investment statements and showed you them how they were growing and what was going on so that you could read them and understand how when the market was good and when the market was bad. So when that was happening in your home, normally when I say things, I get a couple people with that nodding smile. They're like, oh, I totally remember that. How come none of us totally remember that? Because none of our parents did. Why? Because they didn't love us? No, because no one did it for them. And so when we talk about a 2 to 3 generation plan, this isn't theory. I right now have 50 to 70 emails that I get a year from parents, because I've been doing this a very, very long time. When I sit with parents and they start college funds, I have a requirement when the child's 4 that they tell their friends and their family, and they start getting money, right? Instead of all the stupid gifts, they get money. And then they send the checks. They don't deposit, they send the checks, and then the parent takes the kid, and I've been doing this to the kids. They take the kids, and they put it in an envelope, and they put it away, and then when the statement comes in, they show the child, hey, remember when we mailed those out? Here's your accounts. Could you imagine from the time you were 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 and 11 and 12 and 13 and 14 and 15 and 16 and 17 and 18 years old, your parents sat down and said, here's your accounts, here's how they work, here's how investment, not overly complicated. Would that fundamentally change the way you think about money? Yeah. Is that an overly complicated concept? Is that earth-shattering, revolutionary, oh my God, we came up with the greatest idea ever, they should give us a trophy? No, it's pretty simple, huh? But none of us ever did it. See, the reason why we get to do this was I was a waiter, right? Right? I went to school, waiter went to school, all the speakers, right? We come from average and ordinary backgrounds, right? America has this thing, it's average and ordinary people. I struggle because I don't think I'm an average person, but I think I come from an average background. I think there's a big difference between being an average person and coming from an average background. Is that too boastful? Right? Because I'm a unique person. I'm not saying that's good. I'm just saying it's unique. But the reason we talk about that is that's a fundamental thing. But the reality is that we want to do this because 50 years seems like a really long time. Now, not that long because I'm 42. So 50, like, it happens like this, but another 50 years is going to take a while. So we said, wait a second. What if we wanted a 1-generation plan? What would it take? And in America, it would take ownership. The reason that this obscure movie reference came to me, this Flutenbinder concept, was in the movie Cocktail, right? There were these 2 guys, right? There were wanted to be dreams, and there was I Can Never Kane, right? Michael Caine was talking at Hamburg one day. He was talking about business because Tom Cruise was reading all these books, and he's like, hey, you guys know what a Flutenbinder is? It's the little piece of plastic at the end of your shoestring, or your shoelace. That's a Flutenbinder. Y'all know that? No, but the guy who built it and invented it is worth $1 gazillion. Now, when he was a little kid, do you think he dreamt about creating a little piece of plastic that's going to go on every shoe in the world? Like that was his life passion? Probably not, huh? But what he did was he probably tried to tie his shoes, and it would always get in. You guys ever do this? Right? My oldest, I love very much, special needs, right? High-functioning autistic. He can't tie his shoe to save his life. And somehow he does this. He goes to tie his shoe and he pulls it out. I don't know how he does it. It doesn't seem possible that you can pull this way and have it go out that way, but every time. And so I always have to make sure that he has brand new laces, because when they get frayed and then have you ever tried putting laces back in the hole? Like if you're really good, you wet them, and then you do it, and then you get like one string through and you pull it, and the big piece is on the other, and the other's there, and you're like, oh. You ever have that experience? That's what a Flutenbinder does. It solves that problem. See, in business, ownership's about solving a problem. And I talk about this, and the reason that you're here, the reason we're here, right? The people that brought you said, look, we believe in building a very specific concept called allies, advocates, and associates. And I'm going to talk a lot about that tonight. But it's about understanding that everyone in our life needs to understand that we recognize that there's a huge problem. And that we can't solve this alone. And there are going to be people through this night that go, man, that say this is important and we need to participate somehow, some way. And that's my #1 goal. But the reality is ownership can change the world, but it can change yours. Whether it's the Flutenbeinen or it's a Primerica business, the opportunity to solve a problem is real. Now, the dilemma with the Flutenbeinen is there only needs to be one person to solve it. Now, the interesting thing is there's probably 75 different companies that have been built to support it because there had to be someone who could build the engine, that someone had to engineer the plant to be able to build the Flutenbeinen, and then there had to be the trucks that could support it. So there's 80 or 90 or 100 or 200 businesses that have been built around the Flutenbeinen. And they solved a problem. Frustration. Now, I'd like to compare the impact of the Flutenbeinen to making sure that your kids and grandkids never had to worry about money again. Now, if we put those on a scale, could we agree that changing somebody's financial life and giving them resources might change their life a little bit more than the frustration because Velcro could solve the Flutenbeinen? Right or wrong? Or you just tie a knot at the end, which is what I ended up doing, right? Just tie a knot at the end and then it doesn't slide out, right? But it took me like 9 years to figure that out. So y'all got that for free right now. Your kid can tie a knot, you don't need a Flutenbeinen. Y'all are excited. Is that too much? So it's your fault because you pulled that was right, but hey, that can match obscure quotes for obscure quote, right? So we said, okay. So we're not just here to talk about the Flutenbeinen. We're not just here to talk about Primerica. We're here to legitimately say any business that's successful in this country has to solve a problem, which means we have to recognize the problem. It has to have a viable solution, and then it has to have a way to grow. But we're the same way. Because we realized that if we want to deliver a one-generation plan to 70 million families, we had to be able to harness that spirit, that entrepreneurial spirit, that I don't want to feel like this anymore. That I'll show up a little early, I'll go home a little late, because my family's worth fighting for. See, a lot of us get confused. They're like, well, I don't know if I think financial services is my passion. No, it's about changing families' lives, starting with your own. The Flutenbeinen is not a passionate thing. Solving a problem is. We needed to be able to leverage a support system. Why? Because none of us, for the most part, are very organized. Can we all agree? We all want to be organized, right or wrong, except like the one person that's hyper-organized. Y'all know the one person that's hyper-organized, like they're so good that they drive you batty. But for the rest of us, we're just not the way. So we said, look, but all of that stuff needs to be done. So we said, if we're going to be successful in business, we have to have a support system in place. And then to be honest with ourselves, we can have the greatest opportunity in the world. We want to attract talent. You can't build great things without great people. The challenge is, most great people haven't been wandering the earth waiting for us to find them. They've been doing the best they could with the resources they've got. And so they put themselves in a position to at least take care of their family. We said, look, if we want to solve a real problem, we want great people, but we've got to give them the opportunity to keep their job as they transition out. So we said, if we really wanted to solve a one-generation plan, we'd have to solve and we'd have to take advantage of these opportunities. See, we are a business incubator. That's what we are. What does that mean? We talk and focus on showing people how to grow businesses. We're designed on purpose to create and sustain high-level entrepreneurs. It's about teaching people how to organize and structure thought. See, I've been in business 20 years. I've read lots of books. I've talked to lots of people. I've created a significant amount of success, right? Which I'm very, very proud of. I have a question. Why should you have to reinvent the wheel? Why should you have to figure out everything that I know works and figure out everything I know doesn't work? Doesn't that seem a little silly? Now, if you have children, how many of you realize that you stop knowing anything? Right? I got a 13-year-old and 11-year-old. I'm starting to get dumb. I was really smart at 8. Right? When my youngest was 8, not my youngest anymore, when my 11-year-old was 8, I knew everything. I've gotten a little bit silly, a little bit dumb in the last 3 years. And I know there's a really good chance I'm going to become a complete and total moron in the next 5 years. I don't know why it's going to happen. Now, here's what I also know. I'm okay with it because 10 years later, I will be a genius. Right? And that's okay. Well, the same thing. Now, we can all sit there and go, well, why do you need to learn this way? Most of us never stop being a 15-year-old. We always think we can figure it out. Right? When Wade talked about the 4 principles, right? One of the things is understanding, right? The ability to leverage experts versus getting validation from figuring out our own. How many of us have friends that would rather not do something right, but be able to get credit from the fact that they figured out how something didn't work, than having someone tell them how it works and just get it right? How many of us know that? You guys aren't that excited about that. How many of you might be that person? No, that's okay. So we said, look, this could be fun. This is a way to solve a problem we can go through. So we said, look, right, our businesses, y'all excited, okay, it's okay to breathe through this, right? I'll be done in a little while, right? It's all right. We can stand, do jumping jacks, high fives, stuff like that. I'm fine with it. We got good music. Look, we said, look, we got one major priority, and this is really what tonight's about. Because I wanted a place for it. I wanted to be able to create and build a business. I wanted to be able to show up and have people feel good. Almost all the time. All the time if we could, but almost all the time. So we said, look, in order to do that, we've got to ask ourselves, do you see value in people learning and knowing what we're talking about? Like, that's our measurement. If you're sitting there going, seriously, what you guys do thinks it's a waste of time, then this probably is, there's still a place for you, it's just not exciting. But for the most part, do you believe that most people want to put their kids to college if someone would help? If we had a shot to retire, like, it would be better than dying broke. And if we could protect our family, and if something happened to us, they were going to be okay versus leaving them destitute, most of us would rather help them be okay. And if most of us could make an extra $500 or $1,000 a month, that'd make our life a little easier. Like, we're not talking about revolutionary concepts right now, right? We're talking about impact. So we sat there and said, look, can you understand and support the mission that we're on? Because this isn't a job. This is a no one's coming. See, I've done a lot of reading the last couple of years, and I love business. Like, I'm an entrepreneur. That's one of my favorite things. And some of the books and some of the conversation I've gotten into, right, everyone words a lot of the same stuff the same way, but it always came down to the situation. In business, you got to ask 4 questions. What's the market? You can have the greatest idea in the world. If no one's going to buy it, does it matter? Okay, so you got to have a good market. What's your competition? You can have the greatest idea in the world, right? You can come up with the best, computer technology in the world, but if you try to open up right next to Google, Apple, and Microsoft, there's a good chance no one's walking in. So we got to know who our competition is. What's the need? Again, you can have the greatest thing in the world, but if the economy goes down and no one takes advantage of it, you don't have it. And then what's the opportunity? What's the capital backing? Because, guys, it's not that America has lack of ideas. It comes down to execution. And so we got to have the capital and the resources to execute. So we looked at this and said, look, the reason we talk about why we're doing this is I said, well, 70 million families make between $225,000 and $250,000. If we could solve a problem for that group of people, I don't care what the business is, if we could solve a problem for that group of people, should we be successful? And it's not a bad thing. We said, okay, well, if we went into the financial services industry, now how many of us think, right, I'm just going to take sides at a time, how many of us think the banks want us to get wealth? Okay, complete strangers, there's nothing. How about the lenders want us out of debt? The insurance companies want us protected. Now, a lot of you guys, we don't know each other all that well, and I asked 3 pretty straightforward, direct questions about institutions all of us know that none of us trusts. The problem is, it's the only place that group of people can turn to. Which means, if that group of people is turning to industries they know they can't trust, there's no one standing in that gap. So if you had a market of everybody and then competition or none, that could be successful. Now, if you live, do you need to eat? So money is going to be relatively important. Like, how many of us like eating every day multiple times? If you die, does your family need to eat? How many of them think they like to eat multiple times during the day? And if you're trying to figure out how to eat, you got a plan for the money that you make. See, whether you like it or not, the need of this is vital. So we talk about this, closing this gap as a mission, is we said, if you could find a group of people where we were trying to solve the biggest problem in America, where there's no competition and the need is vital, we could probably do something. And the last one says, if we had a $3 billion venture capitalist that says, our checks never bounce, build it as big as you want, and we'll protect it, do you think you could execute on those ideas? See, we said, look, that's why you're here. Is to realize it's one thing to recognize that there's a problem. It's also another thing to even recognize that the solution is viable. But if the solution is real but can't be delivered, it doesn't matter. See, there's lots of politicians, there's lots of people that are going to go up and say, this is the problem, but there's no way it's ever going to change. Because they're not interested necessarily in making the change, they're interested in getting elected. Which means it's really good to blame the problem on somebody else rather than stand up and again. Well, we said, look, we can do this. As I break this down, we can solve this without it. We said, if you knew great people that wanted to do something special, then they were open. Would you be open to recommending them? Why? See, because we said, man, if we had a real problem and a real solution, and all of a sudden someone popped into your head that says they could be a part of this, do you think that could start to make a difference? This is how change starts. Because that's our advocates. And then for some, if you found something personally that was real, that was credible, in alignment with who you were, where you could make an impact and help accomplish your wants, would you be open? See, tonight we call our allies, advocates, and associates nights. Why? Because we realize, one, we want everybody in our life to understand what we're doing. And the person that brought you thought that either you might know somebody who wanted to possibly do something different, or possibly you might want to do something different. And either one of those is up to you, and either one of those are fine. Because the most important thing is whether it's as an ally, an advocate, or an associate, the more people that understand our mission, the more people that understand that there's a real problem and that there's a viable solution and that we've got a way to deliver the method, the real shot for change. The Flutenbiden changes people's lives. Predominantly the people that sell and participate in the distribution of the Flutenbiden. What we want to do is change people's lives because we can get them teaching their kids how to save and invest when they're 9 and 12 and 30. And fundamentally, that can change everything. So we said, okay, what would we need? So over the next couple minutes, I'm going to talk about our opportunity. And the reason that we do this, right? And I always go through because every once in a while I do this and someone's like, oh, you're trying to recruit me. No, we understand something very, very, very critical. We are looking for entrepreneurs. We're looking for folks that have a spirit inside that says, I want to do something different. And that might not be you, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's not a backhanded compliment. This is about finding the people who this message makes sense with. Well, here's what we realized. You can't introduce us to the people that need to hear this if you don't understand what we're doing. And who knows, it might surprise you. Something might trigger and say, hey, this is important. But we understand that we've got to be clear on what we're doing. See, if we're going to attract real Main Street entrepreneurs, we need low capital entry. Why? Because most of us don't have $500,000 later. Is that fair? So we can have the greatest idea in the world. If you got to write a check for $500,000 to do it, we're not doing it. We've got to have a partnership platform. That's why we do what we do. We let the 2,000 people in Atlanta, Georgia build the financial services company because I don't want to be a financial services expert. I had a couple people walk in today and they needed help. You know what I did? I got on the phone with Primerica. Primerica answered all their questions. But I got really good at solving the relationship question. Who do I talk to? You talk to me. Why? Because I know how to talk to them. And it was really, really nice. They looked at me like, wow, that makes so much sense. I thought you were going to come in and convince me to do this and that. I go, why would I do that? They're the experts. My job is to make sure you know you have someone to talk to. We got a back office support company that can organize and structure all this with services and events and planning and all that stuff because that's designed to support your business so that you and I can focus on what we might want to do, which is build a system to distribute Flutenbidens. But instead of plastic pieces, college accounts, retirement, freedom, debt, elimination, protections. And at the end of the day, it's got to be worth it. Like, can we just, like, we could have the greatest idea in the history of the world. If the Flutenbiden didn't sell, no one's still distributing. Right? It's got to be worth that time. So we sat down and said, okay, if we're going to have a place for everyone, we're also going to have a role for all of us. Whether it's as an ally, it's as someone who knows someone who might want to be a part of something, or someone in this room that says, wait a second. I might not have dreamed of Flutenbidens, but man, if I had a shot to change my life and change the world around me, this might make sense. So we said, and this is my favorite slide. And the reason is that I wanted a space, and we wanted to create a space where everyone gets to be themselves. It's not about creating a bunch of people that all think the same way and do the same things. It's about triggering different passions. See, we have a position that we call GAP, Gathering Asset Partners. And there's a very specific reason for this. These are people that have very limited interest in building a business. But there's something, you guys know people that if they see someone do something wrong, like they hold on to it for like 3 days. They're like, did you see that guy? He cut that girl off. Like that was completely, like, why would he do that? And you like you guys all know that person? Like they're just like, that's just not right. Y'all, wow, y'all need to make more friends, right? There's an eclectic group of folks, right? Right? So we said, look, but the reality is, check this out, that there are 10,000 people turning 65 years old every day for the next 19 years in this country. And this is the first generation that's ever had access to a 401k or an IRA. I just want you to think about this just for a second. Think about the group of people that we're talking about. The group of people that make 30 grand or 60 grand or $80,000 a year. Are these people that financial advisors are talking to? Do they have any idea how to talk to the Dean Witter brother-in-law? No. When their parents retired, they made $2 grand a month in their pension. Now they get a piece of paper that has $411,000 or $614,000 or $193,000 or $1.9 million. But all it is right now is a piece of paper. Y'all with me? But now they're getting ready to retire. That income they're used to living on goes away. And now whatever's on that little piece of paper is what's designed to provide the security for their family, for the rest of their life and their spouse's life. Could you think of a more terrifying moment than somebody who's not sophisticated in investing, doesn't have all of these relationships, and has this piece of paper? Could you imagine the excitement of retirement and the trepidation, the absolute panic of, am I going to run out of money? Because when you're 91, not a lot of people are hiring. And food's still important. But we said, look, what if we got really good at finding people that just fell in love with what we did? And if they knew someone who was getting ready to retire, they said, there's someone we know you need to talk to. And let's just say one of our spare timers, one of our gaps, found $1 million in assets. Their brother-in-law was getting ready to retire. Their cousin was just got laid off and needed to roll over. Just said, hey, there's someone I need to talk to. I need you to talk to. Spare time, that passive income to our part-timer is about $4,300 a year, $380 a month. Now, is $380 going to change our life? No. But if you had an extra $300 in your account, would you be happier? But let's say someone found $1 million a year for 5 years. Not real aggressive, just $5 million in assets is about $1,800 a month in passive income. That means on the first of the month, a check for $1,800 shows up. And then next month, $1,800 shows up. And then the next month, $1,800 shows up. Maybe $1,803. Well, why is that a big deal? Why are you talking about that? Why is that so important? The average person starts working when they're 22. They retire at 67. That's 45 years. The average Social Security check is $1,269. That means after 45 years, their passive income resource is $1,200. Someone could be with us for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, start changing people's lives that desperately need it, and replace and create more income than Social Security. This is the equivalent of about $400,000 in assets retired. Someone could create a passive income worth $400,000 of income in a couple years. Guys, we're not talking about little. We're talking about saving a group of people that desperately need it and changing somebody's life. We've got our part-timers. We've got folks that love what they do. They're teachers, they're doctors, they're maybe not lawyers, right? But they love what they do. But they realize that unfortunately, in our country, a lot of times we live under an or philosophy. You can help people, or you can make money. We don't, for whatever reason, like to pay our people that help people a lot of money. Isn't that crazy? Like our nurses and our teachers and our firemen, like they make okay, but compared to the folks that, like, it's an or philosophy. Our social workers don't make any money. We live in an or philosophy. You said, well, what if our part-timers could eliminate the or and we could convert it to an and? Keep doing what you're doing. and make an extra $1,000 a month helping a couple families change their life because no one else is coming. You get to still make an impact, and you get to go to Disneyland once a year. You get to go to dinner with your spouse. You get to make sure that Christmas is the way you want it. You get to go to the movies. You guys going to the? I got 6 kids now. Going to the movies, I got to take out a mortgage. It's ridiculous. This can eliminate a little bit of stress. Now there are some that are like, Brett, that whole I love what I do thing. That's not me. I show up and I go to work because it takes care of my family. But I want to get free. I want to be an owner. And we said, great. What we're going to do is we're going to teach you how to leverage your job. Your job's the best asset you have. It provides you the cover fire to be able to learn how to become an entrepreneur. Because your job pays you enough money. You don't have to quit your job tomorrow. You got to learn how to be an owner. You got to learn how to work with us and tell you, hey, set it up, learn this, learn this. And now all of a sudden you're going to become a hardcore entrepreneur over 3 months, 6 months, a year so that you can transition from your job and not stress. And then there are some entrepreneurs. Some folks that said, okay, what's my food environment? What's my market capitalization? What's my resources? What's my opportunity? What is the principle? Wait, what's the market? What's the need? What's the competition? What's the capitalization? What are we talking about? You're telling me we got a business where there's 70 million assets, 70 million active clients possible? There's no competition. They have to do it whether they like it or not, and we got a $3 billion company? Okay, wait a second. Because then we get to leverage passive income, revenue, and profit. And so we sat down and said, look, we're going to create a space for all of them, but it allows us to walk through. No one is more valuable, but I'm going to talk about this because we realize we can't solve the problem alone. The 20 of us in the room can't change the world. But if we had 100 offices like this around the country, 200 offices around the country, 500 offices like this around the country, we could start to make a difference. So we said, let's put our money there. Why are you learning how to build passive income? $15 million of assets under management is $100,000 a year in passive income. You teach people how to do it. You guys just heard Wade talk about the fact that we're going to go and do a 401k. He's got 1 or 2 more, right? Within the next 8 months, or actually by the end of the year, Wade's probably going to have $2 or $3 million of assets under management. He's had his license a year and a half. If he gets $3 million under management, I teach 10 other people how to do it. They're making money and they pay me $100,000 a year in passive income. See, it's an opportunity to grow. Dave and I are working with someone who's got $15 million that's possibly coming by this time next year. That's an opportunity to change his life and change ours. Why? Because there's resources and no one to talk to. How many think if you started the month with 16 grand showing up on the first, you could start to have a little bit different quality of life? Well, Brad, I don't know. Flutenbein, Farfignugan, right? You build a business that helps 30 families a month. Who's coming to your neighborhood? Who showed up? No one came to my neighborhood. A guy showed up to my family and told them a cash value life insurance policy, told my parents it'll put them to college. That ate itself before I went to school. I asked how many of you, when your parents sat down at 8, 9, and 10 years old and went over the financial game plan, did you sparkle? And none of us did it. Imagine everyone you know, how many of them aren't doing that exact principle to their kids? Why? Because they don't want to, but they don't have enough information and resources to have the conversation. We said, man, if we could just help 30 families a month be able to have that conversation with their 9-year-old, things change. But we could pay you $150,000 to $200,000 a year to do that. And then the reason I love this is I love watching growth. I love seeing people build. You build an RVP that helps 15 families a month, they're going to make about $8,000 to $12,000 a month, and the company pays a $6,200 bonus in profit. Which means if we develop one RVP that makes $100,000 a year, they pay us $72,000. If we develop 2, that's $144,000. 2, 3 is $210,000. 4 is $280,000. 5 is $350,000. Whether it's passive income, it's part-time to supplement what we're doing. It's an opportunity to learn how to be an entrepreneur, to leverage our job as cover fire, or it's a legitimate opportunity to build a business from scratch. The opportunity is in front of us. But if you could make $750,000 a year, 5, 6, 8, 10 years, is it going to happen overnight? No. But if it can happen, why wouldn't it happen to you? would an extra $50,000 a month start to change our situation? Now, I always get nervous showing this because people are like, wow, that's so big, but you guys understand it starts here. See, our mission was we wanted to have a place for everyone and a role for all of us. The reason you're here tonight is because the most important thing is for you to understand that there's a problem that's solvable, and there's a group of us that are focused on solving it. Whether it's because you are here because you might know somebody that wants to participate and do something special, whether it's today or 6 weeks from now, 6 months from now, or 2 years from now. If someone gets into a conversation and they want to do something special, you get to go, I know some folks you should talk to. Or there's something inside you that says, man, I don't know, but this sounds pretty good. And if I could start to change my situation, I could feel good participating. See, whether it's as an ally, it's as an advocate, or as an associate, together we can start to solve this. And we're just a small group of people right now, but the small group of people is getting a little stronger and a little bit better and growing a little bit. And again, the 20 of us might not change the world, but the 20 of us can grow to 50. And David 50 then can grow to 100. Now all of a sudden you got 8, 10, 12, 15 people that are getting licensed and going in and they're telling the story. Then your 50 could grow to 150 to 200. And now we have a movement. See, I want to get up in the morning and stand for something. I want to look at my boys and say, we're fighting a good fight, but I want the and in my life. I want to be able to change the world and change mine. Together we have a shot to do that. And that's what tonight's about. And all our speakers, right, all of our speakers are passionate about that. All of us are focused on being a part of something special. So guys, first of all, I want to thank you for coming. We're back here next week. We always talk about the fact that we're back here next Wednesday, right? This is about hearing a story. This is about going, we can do this together. If you're here for the first time, please get your questions answered. We got Saturday training back here on Saturday, which makes sense, because if it wasn't here on Saturday, then I don't know why we had Saturday training. Right? But from 9 to 11, we jeans and t-shirts. We walk through and say, look, we're going to show the business. We're going to teach entrepreneurs how to do it. Because together we can do something special. If there's any questions, please get them answered. Guys, I'm so excited, so proud of everybody that's here. Thank you for coming. Welcome aboard. Have a great night.